to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, I'm recapping episode 3 of season 2 of And Just Like That. I did not enjoy this episode. I felt like it was a bit cheesy. Maybe it was kind of like a filler. I don't know. I just didn't love it. But either way, let's go through. While I have you, be sure to subscribe, comment. Let's discuss. Did you like the episode? How are you feeling about the season? So slide in the comments, share the video to have a kiki with some of your other friends. And if you like what you see here today, don't tell me because I can't handle criticism. If you do, join the Patreon. Shoot your girl a couple dollars to help me keep going because capitalism is kicking my ass. So, all right, let's dive right in. So Seema has a Birkin bag that gets stolen and no one gives a shit. And I can tell you as a New York resident, there are times where awful things happen to you and no one gives a shit. And then there are times where you are pleasantly surprised by the sense of community that you don't even know you have around you. Example, I was once pushed off of a train. It wasn't moving, but this guy did not feel like I was moving fast enough to get out of his way, so he pushed me, then told me I was an asshole. And this wasn't a person who was like unhoused or disassociating. It was just a terrible person. And no one cared. No one did anything at all. But then the other day, I was in McDonald's and a dude was disassociating and started yelling threats at me. And a guy stepped in and was like, "You good, I got you." And like stood in between me and that guy. New York can surprise you, but it did not surprise me at all that her bag got stolen and no one blinked an eye. The bag is eventually recovered. She finds it in some bushes. Okay, sure, whatever. So Carrie is recording the audio version of her book. And she's getting to the chapter about Big and finding him in the shower, having had a heart attack, actively dying. And she's having a really hard time recording that. And she's like, maybe we can get an actor to do it. And it's like, you know, audiobooks tend to do better when the actual author who wrote it does the audio version. So the producers and everything are really trying to motivate her to get through it. Here's the thing that this says about grief. Number one, grief is sneaky, but grief is almost always with you, and you're just kind of building your life around the grief. It becomes almost like a reluctant friend. Grief is either on top of you, up under you, beside you, pushing you forward, pushing you back. It's there though. And what you resist persists. And so if you don't want to confront the fact that you are a vulnerable person, having lost someone really important to you, no matter how long it's been, that's just going to continue. You have to confront and acknowledge and sit with the vulnerability of grief. It makes you all the things, all of the feelings come along with that. So I can fully relate to feeling like a burden, like when grief really kicks up and it's like this active participant in your life. You feel like a burden. You don't really want people to know that you're having a hard time with it because especially if it's been like some time, you just don't want, like we kind of want to grieve privately. And I was really just reading about this in Bell Hooks, All About Love. But you just don't want to put that on other people. And Carrie, instead of admitting or acknowledging, wow, this is difficult for me, she lies and says that she has COVID to get out of recording and, you know, tells them you're going to have to get an actor to do it. I have COVID. And it's interesting how COVID has become like a catch-all for like, oh, don't ask any questions. We fully understand. Take care of yourself. Well, depending where you are. I also appreciate that she did some retail therapy. I'm not going to advise anyone to do that as a form of healing, but for a quick fix, shopping really does make you happy because, I mean, we live in a capitalist society. There's no way around it. Sometimes a new thing really does make you feel good. And Bergdorf has amazing shoe sales. So I was all about that scene. I was surprised that Carrie didn't have nicer clothes hangers. That all of her clothes hangers were like the actual like plastic hangers that you get. I don't know, it just felt like for someone who's so fashion forward that she would treat her clothes like a little bit more precious. And I just was expecting not the TJ Maxx hangers. And it's no tea, no shade. I just wasn't expecting that from Carrie. So she's promised to attend her downstairs neighbor Lynette's jewelry pop-up. And the jewelry pop-up gets robbed, and Seema pulls out a fake gun. And so Lynette is devastated. Carrie goes to comfort her. All of this felt a bit clunky. The fake gun felt cheesy instead of camp. It just, and I'm also confused about, like, so Lynette didn't have other samples or sketches. Like, these things can't be remade. Were things not insured? I mean, I understand, like, being frustrated, like, that happened. You put all this effort and energy into something and then it goes to shit because people want to steal from you. I thought it was very sweet that Carrie went and laid with her. Again, community is important, but something about all of this just felt offbeat. I don't know, I wasn't into it. Miranda is helping Shay with their lines. Shay is not a very patient person. I can be like that too when I'm trying something new or learning something new. I want to be perfect at it immediately. And when I'm not, I get incredibly frustrated with myself. It's very unreasonable. It's something I'm working on in therapy. But I just think that Shay is impatient with Miranda, period. I don't like Shay. I don't like Shay for Miranda. I don't love where Miranda is in her life, but I respect it. She's having, I don't even want to reduce it to an identity crisis, but for lack of a better term, we'll say she's having an identity crisis. She decides she wants to get a tattoo. I'm all for it. My mom got a tattoo for her 65th birthday. It was her first one. It was the sweetest thing ever. You arrive when you arrive, you leave when you leave. It's fine. But this is all very annoying for me. So Miranda has this new phone that she can't figure out, right? And Brady has called her from Amsterdam, absolutely distraught because his girlfriend has broken up with him. He's alone in Europe. I remember my first major breakup in life. I was devastated, and it's so funny to look back at it now where it's just like, over him, girl, bye. But that's her baby. Like, Brady is her baby. If you are lucky, you will always be your mom's baby. Your mom will always, if you're lucky, your mom will always drop everything to make sure that you're taken care of. So Shay is recording this really pivotal scene on their TV show. And let me be clear. I understand the pressure that comes from being the first, the only, being the person who's breaking through the ceiling or breaking ground on something new. You feel like you have to be all things to all people. You have to be perfect. You have to say everything and hit every angle. It's an unreasonable expectation that marginalized groups put on themselves and on each other to encapsulate their experience. And I get it. I get that you don't want to say this thing to offend or alienate this side, vice versa. You have to be true to yourself, but that can take time. I understand the pressure that Shay is under. So Miranda sneaks her phone into the recording. And of course, because this is kind of like sitcom humor, of course her phone is going to go off while this scene is being recorded. And she feels awful. She runs out. Brady is not okay. So Shay is understandably pissed, but Shay is also not being understanding of the fact that Miranda is going to go be with her kid. That's what it means to be a parent. You show up. And I think this was incredibly selfish of Shay to have even given Miranda shit. I understand being pissed about the recording being ruined during such a pivotal and emotional scene, one that they were really freaked out about and really wanted to do a good job on. I get that. But it wasn't intentional. And it's also like, this woman has to be with her kid. You are not her priority. And I think that's also why people shy away from dating people with kids. They want to be the priority. I know for me, like, as a single person who doesn't have kids, ideally, I would like to date another person who doesn't have kids because I have the capacity to make you a priority in a way that you probably don't when you have a child. But Shay's an asshole, and I stand on it. So Dr. Naya and LTW meet. So LTW interviews Dr. Naya for her documentary, and the guy who was changing her mic was really choosing on her, Dr. Naya. I thought that guy was Keegan Michael Key. And I am so freaked out that that wasn't him. Or was it? Was that Keegan Michael Key? Anyway, there's a MILF list going around Charlotte and LTW's kids' school. And, with like the hottest MILFs. So they find it, they're like, what, numbers 2 and 3 or something like that. And this is, I guess, like an ego boost for them, but it's a really big deal at the school. And the school really wants to send a message to the kid who did it of like, this kind of misogyny is not acceptable. And we're going to notate this on your permanent record. And like colleges will see this. So they see this kid who wrote this list. And it's obviously like a kid on the show. In real life, that dude is probably 30. But that they had this group of women lusting after a high school student, that made me deeply uncomfortable because if that had been a group of dads lusting after a high school girl, we would be rioting in the streets. And I don't think that it's okay to send a message that it's different when it's boys. I found that I'm surprised, really surprised that scene stuck, that they kept that in there. And it's like, did anybody have any issues with that at all? Did not love it. But of course, LTW and Charlotte are, like, oh my God, don't ruin this kid's future. Meanwhile, they got caught lusting after this kid. And I wonder if that's the end of that conversation or if it's gonna come back up at a later time, like in the season. This scene where Seema and Carrie go to dinner and there's just a rugby team of hot dudes that want to buy them drinks. Fantasy and fallacies and fairy tales. Where are these men? This is what I'm the most frustrated with these shows, is that there just seems to be an unending, just bottomless pit of available dudes who are attractive, who are interested in you, all the things. Where are they in real life? I'm not living the dating life that I was sold, particularly by this show. And that there was just an attractive team of rugby dudes buying drinks and charming and not terrible. Where was it? Yeah, this episode didn't do it for me, so I didn't really feel very compelled to watch episode 4. I'm going to, because for posterity, I said I would review the show, so I'm going to as much as I can. Hopefully the next episode is a little bit better, but this one really fell flat for me. So slide in the comments, let me know what you guys thought. I just really don't even have very much to say. So see you for episode 4. Bye.